Hello folks and welcome along. We're going to do a wee bit of a report here on yesterday's win for Glen over Crokes. Some of the stats we were reading yesterday, they were in real time, and as you can appreciate, they were a bit cloudy, but there wasn't too many mistakes made onto it. Hopefully anyone get down to the game enjoyed it. I know anybody who was travelling down from the other side of Belfast in terms of near Derry, they would have enjoyed it. Crokes maybe not so much, but on the whole it was a great game. What we plan to do today is just go through some of the patterns that came out through. Some I haven't really looked at them in great detail on us, in great detail, so we'll make them up as we go along in terms of trying to understand on what they're showing. We'll give you some stats and data in terms of the kick-out retention and where scores are coming from as well. Hopefully you're able to pick them up maybe as you're going through the game itself. Okay, so in terms of just time, now what you're seeing here at the minute is scores by time. So over the course of the 70 plus 77 minutes, I think it was running all in all, you had Glen scoring 114 and Kilmacud scoring 210. You can see at the start where Kilmacud get off to a very, very slow start. Kilmacud represented by the red line. So up until they get a nice point off, and it takes them probably about 14-15 minutes before they're getting another score on, and then they go on a wee tiny bit of a sort of uplift going in with 4 points at half time. Wally Graham's, on the other hand, come out nice and quick. They don't get the first score of the game, but certainly in the last sort of 15 minutes of the first half, they finish like a house on fire, rattling off a number of points as you've seen in real time. Then they go into the break and they come out after the break, and again they're like a herd of the traps. So the first one's off. They go to answer 3 points unanswered at the start of the first half, but then Crokes do come back into it. You will see whenever we go into the pattern shortly about what changed between the first half and the second half, which allowed Crokes to pull back in to the game. For what we're going to discuss next, you have a you have a bit of a key. Okay, so we have our short kickouts are represented by a triangle, our long kickouts are represented by a square. If it's a loss, it's a red, and if it's a green, it is a win for you and your team. We didn't record freeze history, so forget about the blue one. If it's a white flag, you'll see it indicates a point. If it's a green flag, it indicates a goal. Any sort of red rhombus shape is a wide, and the other one we were doing was a turnover. So this wee icon, if you can't see it, just flip your phone around and hopefully you'll be able to see it, but we'll point them out as we go along. That's your turnovers. Our first one we're going to look at overall is in terms of Glen actions. This is the first half and second half, and there's some noticeable trends in terms of what Glen are doing. There's nothing happening in the middle here. You know, if you take a sort of donut shape, this whole thing in the middle is going absolutely nowhere. There's no action taking place in that. There's no kickouts going to it. There is no turnovers being made on it, and that's for Crokes in their play. That's actually very good. What that would tell me is that they're not getting turned over in their own half an awful lot. They're able to get the ball from defence up into the forward line pretty efficient, and that the middle's not being congested. And the same thing really with Glen as well. There's not an awful lot of turnovers, not an awful lot of action taking place in the middle half of the pitch. And again, what that you'll often see good teams doing this. You see Dublin do it very well, Kerry do it very well. They don't get caught up an awful lot in the middle, and most of their plays are at the two extremes. So they're getting up into the opponent's danger zone really quick or in good time, and they're also picking the ball up deep in their own half as well. So we look at Glen in the first half. Glen playing left to right here. You can see that the Glen are able to get. They didn't lose any kickouts in the first half at all. Small green triangle is representing the short kickouts, and you see they're able to get their short kickouts off relatively easy. There's nothing happening in terms of turnovers or anything in that half of the pitch. They also hit one long in the first half, which they were able to win as well. So in terms of whenever they're getting up pretty well into Kilmacud sort of half the pitch. There's nothing. I mean, it's up to the 45 really before they're actually being turned over at any stage. There is a sort of pattern of where they're coming from. You see Kay McFall, Conor Glass, Emma Bradley all hit shots from this right hand side. They are hitting shots from the left hand side, but not as much. And in the first half, they only hit one wide. A couple dropped short, or a couple were turned over unnecessarily. In the second half, you can see, or sorry, in the first half of Kilmacud, you can see a bit of a different picture. Kilmacud playing right to left, and you can see that their keeper likes to go to his left-hand side, predominantly left-hand side, very deep out towards the sideline there. That's where he prefers to go. With being a left-footed keeper, that's probably a wee bit surprising. It is a wee bit surprising. He has to open his body to go that far out. You can see anything that they're going long with, they're not winning. So Crokes didn't win any of their long kickouts from it, and you can see that whenever the option for going short at the left was on, he was happy enough to go to the right hand side. And again, you can see that whenever they were winning these balls, there wasn't an awful lot of turnovers taking place in their hands. That would indicate to me that Glen were dropping off, or they weren't challenging very highly after they won the initial kick out. Crokes were getting well inside the 45, and again, the pattern there was that they preferred shooting sort of centre to right hand side. They only did get 4 shots off, or sorry, only did get 4 points. In the first half, they hit 2 wides also, but there was plenty of turnovers there. So in the second half, it's a different picture for Glen. You can see if we go back to, remember this, where how close they were in the Bradley's sort of area that he was able to get shots off, or kickouts off. And this time, they're forced to go a lot wider. Bradley would have preferred to go in here, but Crokes obviously pushed up onto him and forcing Bradley to go out further out to his right and further out to his left hand side. And you'll notice here as well that the one that they did lose going short, just before that, they have 3 turnovers in their own half as well, which is indicated here, just beyond the small triangles. That is a complete opposite of what was going on in the first half, which signals to me that Crokes were doing a much more effective and high press in the second half. They were able to turn Waddy Graham's over. You can see whenever they did go long that round about the middle hand side, Bradley prefers to go to slightly his right hand side, but he was comfortable going to the left as well. And again, you can see that Glen didn't get as many shots off in the second half, but they were in pretty deep within their shots that they were taking, so their selection was very good. Anybody who's been following Glen over the last wee while will know that I've been calling it their shot ratio, shot amount over a game is somewhere in the region of 24, 25, 26 shots. And up until the last game against Scotstown, they hadn't breached that 50% mark. Yesterday, they breached it very, very well. You can see Crokes in the second half were getting a lot more shorts off again. Keeper going to his right hand side, which is a wee bit more familiar to him for a left footed kicker. They only hit 1 long in the second half, which they lost out on. But again, they're not, apart from what resulted in the goal, they didn't get turned over in their own half. There was only 1 turnover came from a short kick out in their half of the pitch. More success in terms of shooting came from the left hand side. They got 4 points out the left hand side with 2 wides out there as well. But then you can see a lot more shots from out the right hand side, and they were pretty gung-ho about it. It wasn't as effective. They did manage to get 1-2 from it, and that wonder pass by Walsh across into the face of goal, which resulted in the goal as well. So what was the stats on it? From their kickouts, Glen had 20 kickouts overall. They did win 16 of them, and they scored 0-6 directly from their own kickout. They got 11 shorts kickouts off, with winning 10 of them. A split of 0-3 there, resulting from their own short kickout. From their long kickouts, they were able to get 9 off. They retained 6 of them, which is 67%, but they were able to get 3 scores from it as well. In terms of their total shots, they had 20, and they had a conversion rate of 83%. Looking at Crokes, on the other hand, where they were able to get 18 kickouts off altogether, they retained 12 of them, which is 67%, but they were able to score 1-4 directly from their kickouts themselves. Whenever they went short, they were having a lot more success. They actually scored all 1-4 from their own short kickout. They didn't retain any other long kickouts at all, in terms of what I was looking at. And their short kickouts, they retained 86% of them. So in terms of their shot selection, they had 20 shots overall, and they had a conversion rate of 60%, slightly down than what I suggested yesterday, simply because I missed a couple out there. The average scores, there was a point that the length of time it took between the team actually gaining possession until they converted into a point was roughly about 50 seconds. It increased by 10 seconds in the second half. They were getting scores in quicker in the second half. Again, at half time, it was about 57 seconds from the team got the ball until they got a point. But that did sort of decrease down to 49, and that would probably go down to the rattling off of so many scores towards the end of the game. 19 seconds between the goals, so on average, whenever all 3 goals came in, it was roughly about 19 seconds, which probably shouldn't be a surprise given that the Glen goal in itself is probably about 5 seconds. In terms of the amount of possession in play, this is a report that we have where you can track every single action that goes on in terms of written content. But over the 77, 78 minutes of that full game, the ball was in play, I work out, roughly about 56 minutes. Now, that's absolutely phenomenal. That's over 70% of the game that is actually being played live. And especially now, whenever we're talking about possession games, it was still a pretty high scoring game for that amount of play as well. In terms of the overall actions that are going on, you can see that all the actions, if we were split this up into 3/3, all the actions pretty much go on within say the 2 30-yard lines, which is what you want. You don't want an awful lot around about the middle, which made for a fast flowing game yesterday. I'll put this out. If anybody wants that, you can let me know and I can email it to you. I'll have a look. I don't think there's any questions in there, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. No. Okay. Good night.